Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another one of our DevRel chats from the DevRel team here at Sentry. We're coming to you all kind of midway through this conversation, and I actually joined Lazar and Salma midway through this conversation. But essentially, this conversation is about how to be able to visualize kind of like what is happening as your page is loading. But the more interesting, and we'll kind of get into that, but the more interesting conversation that we were just having is, what does good performance look like, or how should you build your sites for people who have slow internet? And I this is actually something that's always been interesting to me, because in particular, I live out in the woods, and the only internet that we could get that was wired was like less than one up. Like, it was horrendous. And since moving here, we did get Starlink, and it's a little bit better. I'm even going to do a speed test right now, just to see, and it's probably going to like mess up all of my internet as I'm doing it. But I'm not even necessarily the customer that we're talking about. But as things like Starlink become more popular, and just recognizing the fact that there still are, I don't know, arguably millions of people in this world who have fairly slow internet. So I've got 239 down and 11 up at the moment, which is not horrible. It's not horrible, but it's not the best. So anyways, long story short, Salma was just saying, if you have a lot of users or visitors to your site that are visiting from places with slow internet, is it better to have like a blank screen or a loading something for longer, or is it better to have like chunks load one at a time?
So I'm wondering whether Google will assess that differently. And because the time to first byte of a page delivered in chunks is going to be shorter. And I know that's not a core web vital, but it's an important metric. And the LCP, the largest contentful paint, would be smaller, but will it be actually meaningful to the user? Because Lazar's showing us this little shopping app he's put together to demo server streaming with Next.js. And how useful actually is the page until the products have loaded? So should a user really see that before it's loaded? Because they can't do anything. And it's kind of, it feels like it's gaming the system a bit. Here I have a really short time to first byte. Here's something on the page that you can't do anything with, but hi, we're here, don't bounce away. But I'm still showing you a useless website for potentially a few seconds. Discuss.
Exactly. And yeah, I think you bring up a good point. It's like there's two different aspects, right? It's how is your page going to be ranked? And then how is a user going to experience it? Lazar, what is your personal preference?
My personal preference would be just probably roll it out in chunks, because I don't know, if this is a website that I haven't landed on and I'm landing on the first time, I know that the content is still loading. I'm after the content, but in the meantime, I'm just going to do a little exploration, like what links are in the in the nav bar or in the footer, like what else I can do aside from consuming the content that I'm after. So like, if I'm met with a case like that, then I better have the opportunity to look at the surrounding stuff and explore what else I can do on this website before I actually move on to the content itself, because either way, I'm going to wait for the content, right? So like, I would like to get it chunked.
You are a very particular user, though. You are very tech savvy. You know how websites are built.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you're not going to click. You're not going to try to scroll. You're going to look.
Yeah.
But if that was, if it's loading in chunks, and this is actually something that when my daughter was very young, I'm talking like 2, I actively was teaching her how to use devices. Whether it was an iPad, by the time she was 3, she was using a mouse and keyboard, because I wanted her to know how things worked without having to give her a crash course in CS. And so every single time she would push a button on her iPad, I would teach her, please wait, and like to lift up her hand and say, please wait. And so I had this like little 2-year-old going, please wait, but like the majority of people don't even really realize that. So I wanted to go with that, Lazar, but then even like me, like I know how sites are built. I know not to touch anything, but I've got ADHD. So I might be like, oh, wait, what is that? Oh, I can't scroll. And it's going to make me frustrated. And even though I know why, I think I might get more angry.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. So
Salma, what would be your preference? Sorry, Lazar, finish.
Yeah, I wanted to link to what Salma said about like it's like a rigging the system. For example, she mentioned that TTFB would be fast, and that's true. We're returning HTML immediately, like straight out the door. But there's also one more thing that we're returning immediately, and the browser is doing, and that's the FCP, right? So because the browser will start rendering this part right here, like for example the navigation bar at the top, or if there's like an aside, it'll start rendering. But is that the FCP? FCP, as a reminder, stands for First Contentful Paint. Is that the contentful paint that we're after? Because the actual main tags, semantically speaking, the actual main tag here is still loading, but the FCP is going to be at the very beginning, because we're going to see some links, we're going to see some navigation stuff. But here's like just a little food for thought. Should the FCP be forced to be measured when the main content, like the main tag, gets populated with content? And we know that not every website uses semantic HTML, so there's a pitfall right there. But if the main content, if the main tag of the document gets populated, there's our content. That is the content that the page delivers, not the sidebar, not the footer, not the aside, the main element. So should the FCP be connected to that? I'm curious.
I mean, it will force more people to use the main tag.
Yeah.
They're being ranked on that by Google, which can only be a good thing.
Exactly. Good habits.
But again, people might end up gaming the system. They'll put the main tag in the header.
Yeah.
and put like a little character in it, which, oh yeah, that's rendered now, FCP done.
Yeah.
Here would be my preference, both as a user and as a developer. If I were making a site where either I knew that the main piece of content was going to take long to load for whatever reason, or I knew that the majority of my customers were coming from places with slower internet, I think what I would do, and I mean, this is very anecdotal, so it may not actually make sense, but for the main pages with where I want customers to stay or users to stay, I might have essentially like a pop-up, not an actual pop-up, but like some kind of more static, more quickly, rendered content that the user could potentially read or just like, look at, or something that is relevant to what is about to load. So for example, if it was something like this, where it was, clothes shop, maybe I would put up my size chart, because that's going to be one of the first things that people who are purchasing, clothes or shoes or something, you got to see, like, what does this size at this company actually mean, right? So maybe I'd put up the size chart, and it's just a static you know, CSS rendered, so it's not having to pull in an image, or maybe the second you come to my page, I cache that, you know, something like that, where I might pull that up as a way to try to kind of keep people there. It reminds me of when Chrome is not connected and it has the little like dinosaur game, right? It's kind of like that. Like, how do I keep people here, but not clicking so that they disrupt the loading, but have it be somewhat relevant? I don't know. That, I think that would be my preference, but I don't know that that would work every time.
I have
That's
preferences.
Yeah,
Yes,
Salma.
go on.
I have two preferences depending on what I'm trying to achieve. And if we're talking about
Yes.
shopping, there are two things that I'm trying to achieve. I'm either researching,
Mhm.
in which case I am usually going to a search results page. I'm trying to filter things. I'm trying to get to the information I want to see as quickly as possible. I'm researching at the moment for a bedroom renovation, right? So I'm doing a lot of like online research on shopping sites. And if the filters aren't responsive, if they're not there, if things aren't updating, I'm like, well, this website's useless. See you later. So I just want it to work as quickly as possible. I don't want to see extra information like size charts at that point, because I'm just browsing and I want to browse as quickly as possible because I have a goal in mind of what I want to choose. Secondly, my goal is to buy something as quickly as possible if I've decided. So I want to go to the URL I've bookmarked, click buy, and I want it to load quickly. I mean, I guess when I know I want to buy that, I will probably wait a little longer for that page to load.
Of course.
But it's the first experience that I think is the most important, where you are encouraging people to easily browse and search for what they want and to give them what they want as soon as possible, which is a whole other kettle of fish, because you have to here now talk about useful filtering systems, which some websites do not have useful and intuitive filtering systems, but they need to work quickly. They need to respond quickly so people can feel confident in investing their time on that. And so to bring it back, I think I would feel more confident investing my time on that if, when I clicked a filter, it updated in a chunked way, actually, probably. And I thought I was going to say the opposite answer, but start giving me the information as soon as possible, as soon as I click the filter. Don't make me wait 3 seconds to load all of the products you're going to
Yeah, that's true. I do get very frustrated when I just want to be filtering and it's like, let me load the 500 products before you filter. And it's like, well, you didn't even have to load the 500 products. So I'm only looking for 10. Okay, I'm going to stop this conversation here for the public. I want to hear what y'all think in the comments, both as a developer, as a user of sites. What would be your preference in terms of the experience? What would be the way in which, you know, Web Vitals should be monitoring or ranking these things? And are there potential hacks that people will do that'll lead to worse experiences? And then I just want to leave this one bit of advice, which is something that shocks me still today, that developers still, this is a very generic statement, but it seems that we still struggle with as developers is not taking the time to think about who our users are, how they're, coming to our sites or our apps, like what their circumstances are. Are they on mobile, or, is their internet slow, whatever it is? And what is it that they're trying to achieve? And how do we ensure that the workflow, or sorry, the user flow of our sites is prioritizing the most common workflows? I don't know why I feel like we still struggle with that as developers. So, all right, that's our chat for today on performance. We're going to actually have our team meeting now. Bye, everyone.
Bye.